This is Boomer Life Lessons and Stories, and I am your host, Dr. Ron Cross. I hope this new episode, and I think it's episode 36, I hope this new episode finds you well and, of course, practicing good, safe social distancing. We're getting ready to start the second part on future-proofing your career. But before we go there, if you could do me a favor, please like, share, and subscribe. Tell your friends about us if we've said anything that has been helpful to you or caused you a moment of pause and deep thought. So that would help us, and I do appreciate all of that. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go out of full screen here and go to share a PowerPoint. We're going to pick up on that PowerPoint that we left off on. So Becoming and Being Prepared is the title of Future-Proofing Your Career Part 2. So what does all that mean? Well, we've got 7 more bullets to talk about in this particular section of Future-Proofing Your Career. So let's go ahead and get started. If I can shift it forward, see, there we go. All right. So the first one, continually perfect and improve your current skills. Now, we did talk about this by way of elaborating on the previous part 1's bullets, but this is just common sense. If you're a professional or you're a tradesman or in any type of job that you may have, you're going to do yourself a great service by continually looking for ways to improve your current skills. So when you do that, what you're doing is future-proofing your career. If you become the best of the best, then the companies are going to be less likely to say you're redundant. And really, that is the key here. If a company gets into a downturn, and we kind of hate hearing that sort of thing because people get laid off. The one way to prevent yourself from falling prey to that sort of thing is by being the best of the best, be the best in class of that particular skill set or that group of skills. So if you're continually striving to be the very best of the best, companies are going to recognize the value that you bring to them, and they're going to be less likely to let you go if they get into a downturn. And also, on the flip side of that, when they're in great stresses due to change, both foreseen and unforeseen, they're going to look to you to help the company, to help the project team get through it, because you're going to be in that class almost by yourself, because there's going to be a few others. Typically, it's the top 1 to 5% that are looked on as the gurus in the company. But in any case, what they're going to say is, Tom Smith over here or Vijay Kumar over there, they're the best of the best in their class, and therefore they're going to be the ones that we want to help us get through these tough times, or to take on these tough challenges, these really difficult projects. So as long as you're continually perfecting and improving your current skill set, that's going to help you future-proof your career. Number 2, learn and acquire new and adjacent skill sets. I cannot emphasize this enough. If Heraclitus is correct, the only constant is change. There's going to be old things that fall away and new things that come sweeping in to take their place. And they might not exactly take their place. They may be improvements on, they may be in addition to, whatever the case is, you're going to need to learn and acquire these new skills. Now, the early adopters are the ones that get the most mileage out of it. Now, what do I mean by that? If you're always the late adopter and change comes sweeping in, and you haven't started the process of learning those new skills, then you're going to be swept aside by that change. And others who were early adopters will step in and fill that gap for the company, for the project. So it's best to be looking out there on that horizon and seeing what's coming at you and begin preparing for it, than to be a late adopter and let it sweep you aside, and therefore you have no opportunity and actually no time to develop these new skills that will be required. So learn and acquire new and adjacent skills. Now let's elaborate on the adjacent skills. I said new, we've talked about that. Those are things that are coming at you that are revolutionary, or they change the industry you're in. But what's adjacent skills? Adjacent skills are, you're in your lane of working as an engineer, as a craftsman, as an accountant, whatever the case is, And as long as you stay in your lane, you're going to be doing your job and doing it to the best of your ability, and the company's going to be appreciative of that. But if you look left or right and avoid the gumption trap, and you need to see my previous episode on gumption traps, by looking left or right, you're going to see people working in other lanes doing different things requiring somewhat different skills than you have. So if you look over to the left and you look over to the right and the other lanes, you're going to see these skills being developed and used, and so must you. Now, recognize the fact that it's not required for your current job in the current lane. But when companies get in great distress and change hits them flat right upside the head, and they get into an economic downturn, they began to look around at the workforce and say, okay, how large were we in the number of employees that we've had in the past when we were only making this number of sales? And it'll be a certain amount of people less than the current population of workers in the company. So what they'll begin to do is let people go. They'll furlough them, and some of them they will lay off. Now, how do you prevent yourself from being laid off and from being furloughed? You do that by becoming multidisciplined. In other words, you're very good at what you do. You may be in the best in the class in your lane, but you also have adjacent skills. So the companies are going to be looking for those individuals that have the greatest skill set and the greatest ability to solve problems, and they're going to want to keep them on their payrolls. And those people that are single skilled type employees, and there are a few, people get into their jobs and they like what they do and they don't endeavor to learn new things. And at the first time we get into an economic downturn, the company begins to apply the filter. And that filter is, where are our multi-skilled people? We want to retain them because that keeps the most value in terms of intellectual capital inside the company. Now, intellectual capital is know-how, right? The people know the company's processes, they know their procedures, they know the technology. And so if you're multi-skilled, then the companies are going to want to retain you, and they'll let others go. And it's a very difficult thing. In my career, being in management, senior management, and as a director of engineering, I've actually had to let people go. But unfortunately, the dictates of the company were that there's a downturn and we have to right-size the corporation, right-size the company so that it can still be viable going forward. Because it's a fiduciary responsibility of all management to make sure that the company is viable going forward. Therefore, they're going to look for the very best people that they can keep on board, and those that are single skilled, are not very good at their job, are going to be let go. And it's a sad thing because these are real people. They have family. They have a need to take care of their family. But unfortunately, the company looks at whether or not they're going to survive. They need to right size and carry forward the people that are multidisciplinary, that are multi-skilled. Okay? So learn and acquire new skills and adjacent skills and be able to become very, very good at them. And you will future-proof your career in terms of whatever change may come wafting in. You're going to be prepared to execute, and you're going to be prepared because the company's going to want to keep you. And that's a good thing, isn't it? Okay, number 3, be dependable, reliable, and consistent. There is a story of an individual who literally was classified as near genius. And this individual, whatever problem you threw at them, he was able to find a way to solve or mitigate the challenges and push the team forward. But you see, there were many times that the company was in dire need of having him present in another meeting or in another lab, and he was nowhere to be found. And so after they did some investigation, they found that he was outside the company taking a break in mid-afternoon. Now, most companies have core hours, and those core hours, everybody must be here, and they may have flex time in between or prior to formal work starting and at the end of the day when work stops. But you may be able to start from 6 to 9, and you may be able to leave from 3 to 5, depending on when you start your day's work. Those are flex hours. Some companies have that as a policy. But in the core hours, you must be present, right? Well, this individual wasn't. So they gave him a warning, and they said, if you do it again, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to take disciplinary action. So as you may have expected, there was another important meeting with directors and vice presidents and customers, and he was not around. And when they found out where he was the next day, he said, oh, I took a break, and they basically let him go. The rest of that story is he quickly found another job because he was very, very good. But it wasn't long after that that the other company let him go as well. Now, why was that? It was because he wasn't dependable. He wasn't where he was supposed to be, when he was supposed to be, executing on his job with the team. And it doesn't matter if you're like Einstein, you're a genius. If you're not dependable, companies will not want you on their workforce. So if you want to future-proof your career and make sure that you're viable going forward, you want to be highly dependable, highly reliable, and be highly consistent in the value that you continually add to the company. And then if you do that, no matter what type of change comes in, and it could be a sudden change, the customer comes in and says, I got a problem, and then the company freezes up and says, we got to get everybody on deck here to help the customer solve and work through this problem. If you're not there in that sudden change, you're not doing yourself any service, you're not doing your family any service, and you've certainly let the company down as well. So whether it's sudden change or change that you can anticipate by scanning the horizon, you have to be dependable, reliable, and consistent. And I don't think any of this is news to you. Perhaps it codifies what is important about future-proofing your career and making you highly valuable to the companies that you may work for. Okay, number 4, add value in concert with the direction of change. So we know that the company has these products and services with these customers in this direction. But now they see the writing on the wall because they've been scanning the horizon. These customers and these products are going to go away. Products have life cycles. So they know that they need to be over in this direction here. So the company begins to develop their 1-year, 3-year, and 5-year plan, because you cannot shift the company instantaneously. It's like this big mass. It's like a battleship in the water. And you see that when the battleship turns, it begins to turn slowly in its direction. Or a cruise ship. Perhaps that's a better example. The cruise ship takes a very slow turn to change directions because of all that mass and inertia. Well, the company's the same way. It has to realign its processes, its procedures, retrain the people, get new technology developed, train the people on the new technology, and they hope that when they arrive in that direction of change that they need to be in, that change does say that they're ready and prepared to deliver the product and service to their company. So it takes time and effort. So what you want to do is make sure that you're adding value. You're shifting the value that you're adding in this direction, and you're migrating it over with the company into that direction. Because if you stay here looking straight ahead, right, that product and that service is obsoleting. And if you don't make any change at all yourself, you're going to obsolete yourself right out of the workforce. People don't often think about obsolescence occurring to them, but it does. If you don't keep your skill set current in the direction of change, then you're going to become obsolete, and the company will have no longer any need of your service. So that's number 4. Add value in concert with the direction of change. But that's not the total story. Number 5 says this. Well, before we go to number 5, let's look at this little tag here I put in. Genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. So what that says is that as you begin to add value and shifting the direction of your products and services to new products and new services, you do that through hard work. And I cannot tell you how many directors of programs and vice presidents of programs have come to me and asked for some of my people because they were very hard workers. Now, I'm going to say something that might surprise you. And I'm not saying it to shock you, but sometimes it is reality. Sometimes program managers and directors and vice presidents don't want the rock stars of their company. They want the hard worker, the guys that they may make mistakes, but they're going to work hard to correct those mistakes and keep driving through the goal line. Because they know if they start here and they want to be over here, they get those hard workers on their team, they're going to view them as geniuses because they overcame something fairly significant for the program, for their customers, and for the company. So you got to be aware that you can't do any of this without applying yourself. Work hard at working hard to achieve those things that you need to achieve to ensure that you're successful, the team's successful, and the company's successful. And that means your family will be successful as well. Okay, add value in concert with the direction of change by working hard at working hard. Now, you also have to work hard at working hard based on sudden change. You want to be on the lookout for divergent change. Perhaps it's not a gradual move over here. Perhaps it's a sudden move over here. You think about the iPhone. The iPhone, Apple caused a sudden shift in what a phone was by adding computational powers, applications that can be developed and used on it. Anything from measuring your heart rate to telling you where you are in the city, to giving you directions to some places you've never been, on and on and on we can go. That was a divergent change, but it was a convergence of technology into a single device. And so you have to always, in order to future-proof your career, look for divergent changes that are coming at you by staying abreast of the technical journals in your profession, sometimes going out and scanning the websites of your competitors, looking at the research being done at the universities, collaborating with people at the universities. All that will make you more informed and more aware so that you can raise the red flag to management when you say, hey, did you see this? This has a threat associated with it to our products and services and our ability as a program or company to continue delivering those products and services to our customers. So it's very important. You have to be on the lookout for divergent change, and then you have to repeat step 4. You want to add value in that new direction of change. Okay? All right, let's go on to number 6. Build the team and expand the rationality. I've got to tell you, I've worked for some pretty sharp, technically inclined managers, and I benefited from them. They were mentors from a technical perspective. But I've also worked for managers who were not very good technically, but for some reason, somehow, they had the wherewithal about them to put together superb teams. They were always able to build the right team for the right time for the right purpose. And it was a mixture of different people that you would never have thought would come together and make a superb team. But these managers were always able to do that. A good manager is always able to do that. Now, the question is begged of me right now, I suppose, why do we have to work in teams? Well, the answer to that is in a previous episode where I talked about the joy of team working. But the real short answer is simply this. The short answer is Ron Cross only knows what Ron Cross knows. But Ron Cross with all of you on my team is a lot smarter. And therefore, we can take on greater challenges, we can analyze greater and more difficult problems, and we can come up with optimal solutions going forward. Now, of course, I said optimal, not best, because the best solution, you might not have the time to do it, nor the money to do it. So the optimal solution is constrained by the 3 baselines: cost, schedule, and technical. And at some point in a future episode, I will talk more about those 3 baselines. But the reason for building teams of different types of people with different types of skill set is to expand your rationality so that as a team, you're a better problem solver. You know more than any one member of the team. That's called synergy, by the way, right? The whole is greater than the sum of the parts. So team building and executing as a team is part and parcel to future-proofing your career. Now, if you're not the decision maker putting together the teams, then you as an individual contributor must learn how to work with the team. And that involves collaboration, communication, negotiation, and problem solving together. So if you can communicate well, collaborate well, negotiate, then you're going to make a good team member. And also, you must avoid the not invented here syndrome. People get locked in on one way of viewing things, and anything else that comes out of the team, it's full stop. It's not their idea, therefore it's wrong. No, you have to depend on the greater knowledge and experience of the team. So future-proof your career by learning to work as a good team member, or being able to put together good teams, and or guiding the teams. Okay, let's go on to the last bullet. Number 7, embrace the challenge. You are more capable than you think you are. And you've heard that as kind of a thread of a theme throughout all my episodes. You have to embrace the challenge. It doesn't matter if you're going to succeed and achieve the goal. What's important is you striving with your team toward achieving the goal, or with your family, right? Or it may be a personal goal. It's the work that you do in striving toward the goal that is most important. And that came from one of my football coaches, Coach Moore. These are things that are very, very important to you. If you shirk the responsibility and you run away from challenges, I'm sorry to say, and I do fear, that you will never be all that you can be. But if you embrace the challenge, and even if somebody bests you or beats you, that's okay. You learn from the experience, and you're going to be better prepared the next time. You're going to be more capable to achieve those things that you want to achieve for your teams, for your projects, for your company, and ultimately, what's most important, for your family. Okay, one last thing. It has been stated during my career that being prepared is 80% of the job. The rest is simply paperwork. Now you think about that. It's kind of like this golden 80-20 rule, right? 20% of the people add 80% most of the value, right? 80-20 rule. 80% of the people only add 20% of the value. This thing is anecdotal. It's not been proven out to my knowledge of any scientific study. But in all the organizations that I have worked in and worked for and managed myself, there were those few individuals that seemed to add 80% of the value, and then the other 20% added the rest. Now that's not saying there's a bad thing here. It's just saying that if you build a team of winners, there's not anything that you can't accomplish. Okay? So I think we're going to close up shop here. What are we going to talk about next in part 3? In part 3, for future-proofing your career, it's closing the achievement gap. And that means making things happen. And with that, my friend, take care. Please know you're always on my mind.